Welcome to Mondays with Michelle, where every week we share real stories of hope, healing, and faith. I'm Michelle, and together we'll meet incredible people whose journeys will encourage your heart and inspire your walk with Christ. I'm so glad you decided to spend your Monday with me, and I hope this week's episode is the fuel you need to help you begin your week. Happy Monday again. I'm so glad that you joined us with Mondays with Michelle. Another week that we can see God do amazing things in our lives. This week on Mondays with Michelle, we have an exciting guest. It is a college friend, and you know I'm old, so we're going back way back to the college days. And I was actually on Facebook a couple weeks ago, and I saw him pop up, and I remembered him, seeing him in a wheelchair and the college campus. So I sent a message and said, "Hey, would you share your story?" And he said, "Sure." So welcome, Tam, today to Mondays with Michelle. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Michelle. My name is Tam. I'm currently living in California. Ever since I graduated from Pensacola in 95, moved to Virginia, and then from Virginia, and I've been here in California since 2006. It's now 2025, so yeah, it's been a while since I've been in California.
And I did not know the Virginia part. Now that's where I'm from. So where were you living in Virginia at?
Oh, Charlottesville, Stanton, Waynesboro.
That's not too far from where I grew up. I was in the Shenandoah Valley area.
Oh yeah, I know exactly where that's at.
Hey, we were neighbors.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was there for a good 7, 8 years.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's neat. I just learned something I didn't know. Well, I'm glad that you joined us, and I know we're on a different time zone, so thank you for adjusting and being able to make it. But I wanted you to share today because you have an amazing story. I never knew why you were in a wheelchair, but you shared with me, and it's an amazing story. So get ready to hear Tam's story today. So
Well,
Tam,
thank you
go
so much.
ahead. Start like when you were born. Like, tell us the beginning.
So basically, I was born in Vietnam. I was born in Vietnam, 1969. I had polio when I was a little boy. And basically, a lot of people are asking, well, what is polio? Well, polio is basically, when you were born, you get like the polio vaccine, you get the measles, and you get the mumps and stuff like that. It used to be like a little pink little gel that you take when you're a baby. So I came from a very, very poor family who could not afford to see the doctors and stuff like that. So unfortunately, I was not able to get the polio vaccine. So basically, the way the polio works is it affects the muscle. So which means my legs, I can't walk, but I can has sensations, so I can pretty much feel my legs. I just can't walk. So basically, it was about when I was about 2 years old. So I was pretty much born fine. So my family didn't give me the polio vaccine, and my grandma had noticed that I was walking with like a little limp, and I just wasn't normal. And then all of a sudden, one day she saw me walking, and all of a sudden I just like fell to the ground. And your first instinct is when you fall, you say, "Oops, I'm embarrassed." Get right back up again. When I fell, couldn't get back up. I tried and I tried and I tried and I couldn't back up. So my grandma was like, "Okay, there's something wrong with our grandson." So they had taken me to the doctor, and the doctor diagnosed it. Yeah, your grandson's got polio. And so they were like, "Is there anything we can do?" The doctor was like, "No, it's too late. He's got polio, so this is going to be something that's going to affect him for the rest of his life." So now my grandma and my mom and my parents were like, "Okay, now we need to sit down and figure out what are we going to do with him? We can't afford to take care of him, and someday he's going to need surgery. Someday he's going to need an operation and all the medical care, and we just no way can we afford to take care of him." So they had made the decision was to the best option was to bring me to America, find an American family who'd be willing to adopt me and who can afford to take care of me and go from there. So my mom didn't like it, my dad didn't like it, of course, but they were like, that's the best option for him because we can't afford to take care of him. Now you have to understand. So now I'm 5 years old. It's 1975, June 1975. 5 years old. My father was French, and my mom was Vietnamese. So I could speak French and I could speak Vietnamese very, very fluently, very fluently. Didn't, of course, I didn't know anything about English because nobody in my family spoke English. So
Now, did they when they were talking about we're gonna find an adoptive family for him, were you listening? Did you know what was going on?
no, no. Of course, being a 5 year old boy, they didn't want to like frighten me. So they kind of like did all this behind my back because they didn't want to frighten me. So they had somehow made arrangements for me to be adopted by a family in San Francisco. I don't know how that came about. All I remember was my grandma was like, "Hey, Liam," because Liam is actually my Vietnamese name. Tam is my American name. Liam, we're gonna go on a little vacation. So 1975 is the tail end of the war. My dad is still fighting in the war, so he had to stay back, and my mom decided to stay back with him. So they thought, well, they're gonna send my sister to France to live with my dad's side of the family because that's where my dad was from, and then we're gonna send Lim over to America with his Vietnamese family, hoping that we can find a family for him to live with. So once again, everything's done. Plane tickets are bought. They had made arrangements for a family in San Francisco verbally, and I'm thinking I'm going on vacation. I'm speaking Vietnamese to my family, and I was excited because I've never left home before. Now you have to remember, 1975, I didn't have a wheelchair. I didn't have any braces. I didn't have any crutches. I was pretty much like a little 5 year old boy crawling on the ground because I had no means of transportation. So my uncle, he had to physically like carry me on his back everywhere that I went, through the airport, changing planes. So I was 5 years old, getting a little bit heavy. Honolulu, Hawaii was supposed to be our connection because, you fly from Vietnam to Hawaii and then from Hawaii continue on to the mainland. We got to Hawaii in June 1975, but when we had landed, my uncle he just physically couldn't carry me anymore. He's like, I can't carry Lim. I'm sorry, but I'm in a lot of pain. So my grandma had it was so bad that they had to admit him into the hospital there in Hawaii. So we missed our connection. So I'm thinking Hawaii was our destination because we weren't moving forward. And so my grandma was like, okay, now let me contact his family in San Francisco and tell him that we're going to be a little bit late, but we don't know if it's going to be days, weeks, because my son is in the hospital. He can't carry him. I can't carry him. So they contacted my family in San Francisco and told them the situation. And the family was like, we changed our mind. We no longer want to adopt him. If he can't come today, I'm sorry, but there was no papers. It's just a verbal communication. So we no longer want him. So
So
my
sad.
grandma, yeah, my grandma and my aunt and my uncle we are stuck in Hawaii and we are like, we don't know what to do. We can't get back in the plane and go back to Vietnam because the whole purpose was to bring him out of Vietnam. So my grandma was like, let's put him in there was like American Red Cross there in Hawaii. He says, let's put his name in here and see what happens because while my son is in the hospital, that's our best option. So they had put my name in the American Red Cross, hoping that some family would adopt me.
Meantime, are you still crawling around? Like, so at the
Yeah,
airport when he couldn't, you just had to crawl.
yeah, yeah. Believe it or not, my grandma had found a wheelbarrow, and that's how they pushed me around was in a wheelbarrow because they didn't have any other means of pushing me around. So they put me a 5-year-old boy in a wheelbarrow and like were pushing me around. Yeah. Carl and Francie Albertson are my adoptive parents. They adopted me since I was in 75. My father was going through medical school to be an orthopedic surgeon, and my grandma, my mom was a kindergarten teacher. So they were looking to adopt because supposedly they were told that my mom couldn't have children. So the American Red Cross now, as you guys know, back then adoption was hard because once you put your name on the list, you're at the bottom of the barrel until you work your way up. And my parents were at the very, very bottom. So the American Red Cross had contacted my parents and said, hey, we understand that you and your wife are looking to adopt, and we have a very unique situation here. And boy, my parents were excited. So yes, we want to adopt. What's he like? What's his name? And so forth. The American Red Cross was like, well, before you get too excited here, you might want to come down and take a look at him because he's not the average boy. And they were like, what do you mean? It says he came from Vietnam. They're looking for a family, and but he cannot walk. And my parents like, what do you mean he can't walk? So yeah, he can't walk. So my parents that came over, they met my grandma. Now my grandma could speak a little bit of English because her husband was in the Air Force at that time, so she could speak a little bit of English. So she understood English. I, on the other hand, could not still speak a lick of English. I was like, you couldn't hi? I didn't know what that was. So I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm thinking I'm on vacation here in Hawaii. My parents and my grandma talked in the situation and they looked at me. Now imagine I tell people, imagine when you watch TV and you see those poor Ethiopian kids on TV, how they're real skinny and Michelle,
Bones, you can see their bones usually,
I
and
was one of them. Yeah, yeah. I'm 5 years old. I had rotten teeth, which means I still have my baby teeth. You can see my wrist, you see my rib cage. I was very malnourished, and I was like, nobody would want to take care of me. And my dad was like, very interesting. But my dad was enthusiastic because he was a doctor, and he was like, well, I'm going to medical school. This is what I'm going to school for. What do you think? And my mom was like, nah, no. Now, at that time, I have to tell you, my parents had adopted another boy. His name was Todd, and he's American. So they already had Todd in the family. And Todd is 4 years old, so he was actually a year younger than me. And they were looking to adopt another one. So two boys. And my mom was like, no, we can't adopt him, sorry. And my dad was like, well, honey, we've been praying to the Lord for a long time to bring someone into our family. And my mom said, well, look at him. He can't even walk. You know, you and I had made all these plans with Todd to raise him up and to go camping, to go fishing, hiking, swimming. Tam can't even walk. How's he gonna participate in the family if he can't walk? And my dad was like, well, honey, this is what you've been praying for. So they said, well, let's pray about it and we'll get back to you in the next few days. And I still haven't met them. I still have not seen them because they didn't want to frighten me. So I was either at the hospital or I was at the back at the hotel. That's what it was. And so the day came in June where my family and my grandma had decided, okay, the adoption paper went through. They approved it, so let's meet and exchange them. This I do remember. This, if people were to ask me if I remember anything when I was a childhood boy, this particular day, I remember it, Michelle, like it was just yesterday. We had gone out to dinner, and my dad was driving, my mom was in the front seat. My grandma was on the left hand side. Oh boy, vaguely remember she was on the left hand side. We went to dinner. I didn't understand what they were saying. I'm just minding my own business. We come back to the hotel, and my grandma goes, Liam, in Vietnamese. She speaks to me in Vietnamese. Said, Liam, I'm so sorry, but I need to go back inside the hotel, and I need to grab my purse because I don't have any money with me. She didn't want to hug me. She didn't want to kiss me because she didn't want to give me any kind of, okay, what's going on. So I could see my grandma was holding back her tears because was pretty much a goodbye. And I said, okay, grandma. And I was just frightened. She gets out of the car. I can see her walk to the hotel. And then my parents start driving off. And I'm like in the back seat and I'm like, where are we going? My grandma is coming back. I started crying. Uh, my mom takes off her seatbelt. She reaches in the back to grab me, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? So I got this white lady trying to hug me. She's speaking to me in a foreign language. I can't understand her. She can't understand me. My father is driving. He can't understand. So there's not, we can't even understand a little bit. Not even a little bit. So
I can't
I'm
even
like,
imagine, and I'm sure everyone listening to your story cannot even comprehend.
yeah,
But I did wanna
imagine
ask you
meeting
something.
somebody. Yeah,
So going back to they said, "Let's pray about getting him." And you
yeah,
had told me that during I don't know how long they were praying about you, but different people from the church had mentioned, like, God has something special, like, they had prayed a fleece.
yeah. It was funny because my parents are very strong Christian people, and my grandfather was a pastor, and so when they said we'll go home and pray about it, they didn't tell anybody in the church, not a soul, not to the pastor, not to the best friend, nothing. And my parents told me that one day they had a phone call from somebody from the church telling them that something miraculously is going to happen into your life. And my parents are like, honey, we didn't tell anybody. How do they know? And that's what triggered it was because the fact that somebody had said something and they're like, nobody in the church knows. Only God knows. And so this was all God's timing the whole entire time.
That's such a neat like, when you told me that, I'm like,
That's
"That is
what,
so" and a lot
yeah,
of people, that happens in their life. They might pray, and
it
then they
does.
know God is speaking to them. They've
Through
been
other
praying.
people.
So,
Exactly, exactly. So my parents said, yeah, somebody had called them and they were like, this must be the Lord's will because they had not told anybody in the church. So how did they know?
God wanted
So
them to have you. So now they're in the car with you. You can't speak to them. They can't speak to you.
we
What
drive
happened?
off. We drive off. That's how the adoption place took place. The story gets interesting because of the fact that I'm 5 years old. I can't speak English. Still can't walk. You have to understand, I'm a 5-year-old boy who came from a family who spoiled me, who treated me like I was disabled, who was like this, who gave me everything. He's like, poor kid, we're gonna baby him. Now I'm transitioning to a family who didn't even feel sorry for me. Not one bit. My parents shared me the story of the fact that so they had bought me braces and crutches to where I could start learning how to walk. They didn't want to buy me a wheelchair because they didn't want me to be dependent on a wheelchair. They wanted for me to learn how to walk with braces and crutches. Michelle, it was so bad that they would say, Tam, we went to the mall. You didn't even know what a drinking fountain was. Every time you went to a drinking fountain, you turn on the water, you wash your face and hands because you didn't know it was for drinking. So we went to the mall and we were walking around and my dad said, Tam, you got so tired right in the middle of the wall, you just fell to the ground. I literally just fell to the ground. And my parents looked at me and says, well, I guess he's feeling sorry for himself. So my parents just kept walking. They just kept walking. That is the honest truth. They just kept walking. Everybody in the mall were looking at my parents like, what are you guys doing? You have a 5-year-old kid over here and you just gonna leave him like that? But my parents knew. My parents knew. So they just kept walking. And I saw my parents walking. I was crying. And sure enough, I got myself right back on my feet again. I just started walking right after my parents because they were absolutely right. They were absolutely right.
You were made. You were using the arm braces or
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, the same ones that I was using in college. I don't know if you remember, I
yeah,
had
I
those when I
do.
was in college. Yeah, yeah. So after my dad had finished medical school. We moved to Kentucky for a little bit because he was in the army and he had to finish up his couple years, whatever. So we were in Kentucky for a little bit, and then we decided to move to Montana. And people asked, Tana, what made your parents move to Montana? My parents wanted to raise Todd and I out in the country, away from the world, into this little rural area called Plains, to where we had nothing around us except for whitewater rafting, camping, horseback riding, fishing, swimming, all of the things that you would think a guy in a wheelchair can't do.
All the
And my
reasons they
mom,
didn't want you.
exactly.
Yeah.
My mom didn't want
Your
me.
mom didn't want you because of yeah.
Yeah. And so we were in Montana, and mom was like, well, how are we going to take Tam with us? Because he can't even do half these things. And my dad was like, well, honey, we're going to have to teach Tam how to do these things, or otherwise he's just going to have to be home feeling sorry for himself. We're going to make him think with his mind. He got two good arms and two good hands and a good heart. He's got to use them. So Montana is where I learned everything. Literally everything. Swimming, horseback riding, fishing, whitewater rafting, youth group, everything. I enjoyed it. The only thing I didn't enjoy about Montana was being made fun of. You have to understand that we were in public school in Montana. You have one little boy who has dark skinned, who's Asian, uh, couldn't speak English, very little. I was learning at that time, and was disabled. Going to a public school where there's all white people. Michelle, I had everybody picking on me, calling me names, making fun of me, and just laughing at me. And I had it rough through my middle school. My parents started noticing that I was failing all my classes. I was like getting D's and F's, and I was hanging out with the wrong crowd. But the only way I could be accepted was to do what they were doing. And to my parents, that were just not acceptable. So that was when I would say in eighth grade, they had decided to take me out, and that's when they started to homeschool me. That's where homeschooling got involved, was the fact that we've got to get Tam out of here because we don't even know if Tam's going to grow up to go to college. We don't know if he's going to go to get an education. We don't know because he was just failing everything.
Now were they still making you use the arm braces or had you gotten a wheelchair yet? When at what age
No,
did you get a wheelchair?
I didn't get a wheelchair until I was in 10th grade in high school. Yeah, yeah. But the only reason why I got a wheelchair is because when I got older, I want to say when I was 14 years old, I do remember I was 14 years old. My parents had, so when I was in Montana, my family had still kept in touch with my grandma in California. All these years, they knew where she was at, and she knew where my parents were at. I didn't know. They hid that from me for many years.
So
Yeah.
you when she walked out of the car from you, you never
That was
talked
the
to
last
her
time
again.
I saw her until I was 14 years old. So from 5 to 14, all those years. And they hid that for a reason so that they said, Tam, we're your family. This is. I had no idea that my mom was still living in Vietnam. I had no idea that my dad had passed away shortly after I come over from Vietnam. They flew my grandma from California because after I was adopted, my family continued to LA, which is where they're living today. And she came up to me. She came up to Montana. I was 14 years old, and she says, "Tam, we need to sit down. We need to have a talk." And she told me everything that happened from Vietnam all the way through. That's how I found out about the San Francisco family, and that's how I found out that my mom was still living. So I'm like, my birth mom is still living. She's still in Vietnam. She says, yes, yes. And she says, we are living in California. And she says, what about my dad? He says, he died in a car accident. And where's my sister? She says, she's still living in France. I'm still living in California. My sister is still living in France as of today. My mom is still living in Vietnam as of today. My aunt and uncles who brought me over from Vietnam in 75 are still living here in California, which I see every day. And the thing that I do want to share with you guys is how God worked in my life through all these years. Is everywhere I go, people have asked me about my story, and they see me do so much. I play tennis, I play wheelchair football, I swim. They said, Tam, even when I was in college, they said, Tam, there's nothing that stops you. And I told them that's because Jesus Christ is number one in my life. I said, I have learned that. It's that all the years that people would make fun of me and mock me, Jesus was the only one who still loved me. And the fact that it was his plan and his timing throughout the whole entire time to bring me, a little boy, out of Vietnam, all the way across America, halfway around the world, into an American family. And the thing that I share is I'm the only one who's disabled in the family. Yes. But out of my mom, my father, my sister, my grandma, and my two uncles, I'm the only one who's saved in my family. So God is using me today as the disabled one who has Jesus Christ living in his life to now I'm sharing the gospel with my family here in Vietnam. And I went back to Vietnam and I shared it with my mom. And it's kind of like I use that as a testimony to say, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. Because the biggest challenge is, I told people, and this is what I'll leave with you guys. My favorite saying, Michelle. The difference between the possible and impossible lies within a person's determination. And I've always believed that because it's kind of like all my life, my parents would never let me say the word I can't. Because every time I say that, my dad would say, Tam, did you try? I says, well, no. Well, then how do you expect mom and I to help you if you haven't even showed us that you tried? 9 out of 10, when I tried, I was able to figure it out. My dad says, Mom and I, we will always help you. We will always love you because you are our son. But you need to show us that you're trying first. And if you still can't do it, then we'll always be there to help you. So that's why through all the years in college, I did what I did. I did it because of the fact that I can do it. I always had a can do attitude. I love it when people tell me that it can't be done. Because in my mind, it's like, well, let me show you how it's done. Let me show you how it's done. And so that's
Yeah.
my testimony of how I came from Vietnam to here to America.
Yeah, you definitely have the will. I remember seeing you go up the stairs, down the stairs in your wheelchair. You don't normally see that very
Yeah,
often.
yeah,
But you have the will. And if you weren't with that family, you wouldn't be where you are today because God
exactly.
knew that is the exact family you needed. The verse that I think about, Isaiah 41:10, do not fear, I'm with you. Do not be afraid, I'm your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you. And that sounds
Yes,
like that is the verse, that God used
right.
being there with you, helping you through so much.
Yeah. And God is still using me today as a testimony because everywhere I go, a lot of people have asked me, Tam, I noticed you in a wheelchair. And it gives me the door to share them the gospel because it's kind of, they opened up the door. So now I'm like, I want to plant the seed. Say, hey, let me show you what God did in my life. And I've met a lot of people here who have struggled, who've had rough times. And it's kind of like, we all have challenges and we all have obstacles in our life, maybe different ones. Mine were going up the stairs. Mine was coming, or whatever, whatever it is, maybe. The biggest thing that I find today is these kids are going through high school and peer pressure of temptation of like, well, to be accepted, I have to do what they have. No, you don't. Step out and be that leader, because I made that choice. And it's kind of like, well, and when I was in grade school and when I was in college, the only friend that I had was Jesus Christ. And no matter what happened, he was always in my corner. And that's the reason why today I can have the attitude of the fact that he is with me, he loves me, and I can do it, and it will be done.
Right. And that's such encouragement when you feel like I have no friends. No one loves me. Jesus is always there in the
Exactly.
night, in the day, whenever. He's always there for you. So that's such
Exactly.
encouragement.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So,
And so you are
yeah,
still in contact with your grandma today and your mom.
my grandma passed away. Yeah, my grandma passed away years ago. My mom is 75 and she's still currently living in Saigon. My sister I'm 56, she's 53, 54, and she's living in France. I've tried sharing the gospel with her, but she rejects it. She can speak Vietnamese and French still. My mom knows a little bit of English. I'm the only one in the family now, at one time, who couldn't speak English. Now I speak English, but I don't speak Vietnamese. So everything's been reversed. And yeah, so I feel that the Lord brought me back here to say, hey, Tam, um, you need to share the gospel and share with them what I've done in your life, and that's what I'm trying to do now. So
Yes.
it's been a challenging, but it can be done.
Well, and we think, how many of you, including me, we've been up the stairs today, or we've ran and did this and that, and you never can do that.
Yeah.
We take for granted a lot of things that we can do.
Hmm.
And we might not share the gospel as much as you. That now people see, oh, he's in a wheelchair. What happened to you? And you're able to, that opens the door for you.
Yeah, it does. It does. I still go up and down the stairs today, Michelle.
No, you do. I saw.
Matter of fact, right outside I have a big 2008 Nissan Titan truck that I physically can get myself into my truck, take my wheelchair apart, put it in my truck, drive off without any assistance from anybody.
Wow. I'm sure when you're in a parking lot, people are watching.
Oh, they are. And people come up and say, hey, do you need help? So, no, I got this. And they're like, because it's new to them. They're like, I've never seen this before.
Right.
I've never seen a guy in a wheelchair. My truck is really high, how I can get up there. And they're like, look at this guy go. So, yeah.
Amazing. And you've been playing in tennis tournaments and you're just unstoppable.
Yes, yeah. I love tennis. I love swimming. I still go swimming a lot. And I was just telling my parents I'm gonna start going sailing. So now we have, here living in California, it's nice because we have a lot of things to do with the adapted people. But because I've learned all these things in Montana, it's like it's nothing new to me because I've done it before. And I'm showing my friends who are in wheelchairs, like, how does Tam do it? Because I can't seem to do it. And it's like, hey,
You motivate
what?
me because I don't know how to play tennis. I have no clue, but you can do it in a wheelchair. Now, you talked about sailing. So when we went to college in Pensacola, I thought I'm going to do sailing for PE class. Hey, I'm at the beach. Why not? I
Yeah,
thought it'd be easy. So I
right.
remember the first class sitting on the sailboat and they said, you have to watch because that boom's going to Well, it got me. Because if you're not paying attention,
Yeah,
wind catches it, and yeah,
yeah,
sailing was not so much fun as what I thought it.
yeah, yeah. Well, Michelle, I will share this before I go, but the thing is, I don't know if you remember, I was a big ping pong player in
Yes.
Pensacola,
Uh-huh.
and a lot of, and the thing is, when I was in college, you remember, I couldn't play basketball like the guys, and I couldn't um, do the collegiate soccer. So I had to figure out what can I do, and
Right.
we had the ping pong table in the commons, and guys and girls were walking by and said, "Look at this guy playing ping pong, man! He's unbelievable." And it was funny because I remember the guys were like, "You play this guy in a wheelchair, man." I said, "Man, he beat me." He said, "You let a guy in a wheelchair beat you in ping pong?" So they would get up to the table, I would whoop them too.
They
And
probably
and
haven't
that's
never
how
forgotten
that's how
you.
I made a name of myself. I was like, this guy, man, he's in a wheelchair, but he's beating everybody in ping pong.
You are
Yeah.
amazing, Tam, and I am so glad
Thank
you
you.
shared today. So
Thank you
many
so much.
people, different aspects of your story, I'm sure they learned from, and you're such an inspiration. So thank you for taking time, sharing with us, and thank you all for joining in and listening to Mondays with Michelle. If you have any comments or you want to share, I have my email, mondayswithmichelle2911@gmail.com. But thank you again, and we will see you all next Monday. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Thank you for joining me for Mondays with Michelle. If today's story encouraged you, please share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you have an inspirational story to share, or you would like to be a guest on the future episode, please send an email to mondayswithmichelle2911@gmail.com. See you next Monday.
Like and subscribe to Mondays with Michelle.